DFG's Corner is sponsored by the Real Golden Girls Creations.
those on my TikTok live, I thank you for coming. Please leave some love. Trying to get up there. Trying to get up there. I can't do it without you.
DFG's Corner is sponsored by the Real Golden Girls Creations.
Welcome to my show. This is DFG, the man with the golden voice, the lady's choice, and I'm smoother as a Rolls Royce. I'm coming to you live from the 571, where I'm having fun and I'm getting things done. Hopefully, you're having a wonderful Tuesday, and hopefully, things are going well for you. Welcome to my show. This is DFG, the man with the golden voice. Forgive me, gotta be smarter than the equipment. See you live in the 571, where I'm having fun and I'm getting things done. Hopefully, you're having a wonderful Tuesday, and hopefully things. Well, I guess that stops right there. Today's show is one that's getting near and dear to me. Dealing with segregation and also the president signing an executive order to have the Secretary of Education dismantle the Department of Education. So I'm going to play a couple of things first, starting with segregation. Let me bring up this clip. And then we're going to talk about it. How you doing, Miss Sum? I'm glad you're on. Thank you for coming on. Those out there in Facebook land, hopefully you can hear. Come on. The more the merrier. Those in Facebook land, in YouTube land, and also in TikTok land, Insta land, and soon to be other lands, but not Cleveland. I'm here all week, people. I don't know. Can you hear it, Summer?
No, I can't hear it.
Hold on, let me try something. Give me a second. Of course, the thing acts up right when I'm about to start, but it is what it is. Let's see. I'm just gonna have to go off the sound. This is free fair use. Fair use. As soon as I can find it. Delaware County.
Flip side of that is Chester, the oldest city in Pennsylvania. Chester once had upwards of 65,000 people. However, after deindustrialization, its population.
All while locking up as many black people as possible to feed the machinery of injustice in prisons. And for those that say that the police only respond to crime in black neighborhoods, I'd say that you're only telling one part of the story. Continued racial segregation robbed black communities of equal access to the same educational, housing, and employment opportunities other communities have, which make black communities vulnerable to both low-level and more serious forms of crime. The cities that cause segregation then use the issue of crime that it created to justify over-policing black communities. What should be the police protecting and serving amounts to war zone-like military occupation of black communities. Segregation creates the environment for criminality to thrive, and segregation comes back to enforce the environment that it created. It's a vicious cycle that continues to rob the future of the black generation. It's racial segregation that destabilizes black communities. And instead of addressing this decades-old problem, the institution of policing is used against black communities and unleashes a second round of injustice on black people in the form of policing practices that target and hunt and humiliate and harm black communities.
I'm gonna stop it right there. What do you think about that, Miss Summer? And what's going on, Chocolate Pearl, my favorite girl?
Hey y'all. Sorry I'm late.
Hey,
Oh,
guys.
don't worry about it. So what do you think about with segregation coming up and its effects on the black community, especially what he was talking about with over policing and using poverty and situation to justify over policing black and mainly black communities?
Basically, I believe that uh, we ain't meant to survive because it's a setup. And even though you're fed up, you got to keep your head up. It's a lot. It's we are not new to this. I feel we are being targeted as always. They don't want us to be educated. They don't want us to sit at the table with them. And so uh, we have to get the tools that we need to survive by any means necessary. We have to be smart. We have to be strategic. We have to move differently, stay in groups. We have to start saving. We have to buy our own buildings, buy our own land. We have to just start really focusing on everything and anything that we are going to need to survive for the future. So I think we're being targeted. I
Mhm.
hate it, but it's a lot. It's a lot with this. So
And here's my take on it. They want us to they want to segregate us, but they don't want to separate us. We don't mind being separate. We don't mind having our own, like you said, doing our own thing, but they don't want that. They want to be able to pin us down and use the justification that we can't do any better to have us financially, economically, and socially dependent on them.
Mhm.
And they want us there when they want us there, not when we want to be there. And they want to have the ability to come into our spaces with impunity. So segregation is not is yes, it's going to affect everybody, but it's going to hurt the dominant society more than it will hurt us because we're used to not going to places where we're not wanted. What do you think about that, Chocolate Pearl?
I agree with both of y'all wholeheartedly, and I love what Simone said. I mean, Summer said uh, they are trying to divide us, and in certain ways, they try to keep their foot on our necks. And I don't know what is the problem with us. We we learn to adapt to everything that's thrown to us. But for some parent reason, there are people or societies that are threatened by us in every single way. So they try to take things from us or they try to stop us because they know that we know how to progress. We know how to survive. We know how to make it happen without having to backstab and do all the stuff that they're doing. So so in order for them to be content, they feel that they have to keep their foot on our neck. And segregation is a foot on our neck. You're trying to say, okay, well, if we decide we're going to stop them from doing certain things, they won't survive. They fail to realize we went through segregation before and we survived. But guess what? We are stronger now and we know better and we know how to handle ourselves in this new society. So segregation is not going to work. It's going to backfire on them, period. Because back then, if you, especially with the education, they tried to not educate us, but what we did, we snuck and educated ourselves. Or we found some allies and we decided they decided to help us educate ourselves. So where there's a will, there's always going to be a way. And our society, we're going to find that way at any means necessary. So they can try to put their foot on our neck. Our legs and arms are still going to move. At the end
Yeah,
of the day, we're going to find a way to make it. And we're going to make it and be grand about it. So they can try to do what they want to do and how they want to do it, but we're still going to survive. The problem is they don't know how to survive. They don't know how to do anything but be bullies. That's all they know how to do. And they're failing at that because we don't even care.
not anymore. Not anymore.
So
Miss
you
Kim,
think
welcome
they're
to the
trying to be a bully? Guess what? We know how to fight back bullies. And I will always say this. when y'all hit low, we're gonna hit high.
Well,
You know what I'm
we're
saying?
talking
Same
now.
thing.
Now it's time for
Michelle
us to go
Obama said that,
lower.
huh?
Now it's time for us to go lower.
Well, even if we try to go lower, we're still gonna be higher than them. At the end of the day, we're still gonna be higher than them. So, like Michelle Obama said, when they hit low, we just go high, and we're gonna succeed when we stay above them. And they fail to realize that we're gonna always be above them, whether they notice or not, because they're so into trying to destroy us that they can't see what's going on above them. That's my
Right.
take on that.
Right, right. As I was saying a little earlier, welcome, Miss Kim. How you doing? Tonight's subject is segregation. Also, we're talking about the president signing the executive order to close down the Department of Education, and the implications of that on society. I'm not just saying the black community because not only the black community gets those issues or are directly affected. What do you think about the what do you think about the president basically saying that segregation in the public sector, especially in the government in the federal government, is not illegal?
When it comes to segregation, believe it or not, I'm for it. Because look, we already basically know how to survive being separated from them. We already have a lot of black owned businesses. We have, uh, we cook better than them. So if that's what he wants, okay, so be it. But we will survive no matter what. They did it in the past. We're going to do it now, and we'll do it even better than what they did in the past because we got the tools and education to get the job done. So I am not one bit worried or afraid.
That's right. We built this country. They keep forgetting that. We built the country.
Right.
And without
So
us, there would be no United States.
they
Why
gonna
won't they
hurt.
see that?
Yeah, they gonna hurt if they can't come to our nice restaurants or, they love everything about us. They just don't want to admit it. They love our culture. They love
That's the
everything
thing
about us.
about it, Kim. Kim, that's the thing about it. You hit the nail on the head. They
Hmm.
think that by excluding us and what they're used to is going to stop us. They fail to realize we have our own,
We
and we
got them.
always had our own. Where do you think juke joints came from?
Exactly.
Where do you think the mom and pop kitchens came from?
Yeah. Yeah,
This ain't no
exactly.
first time situation. We ain't just coming up with this. This has been happening for centuries. So why in the world are they talking about trying
We
to
strong.
segregate us?
Yeah, we stronger and better now. So bring it. Come
Yeah,
on.
they fail to realize the clear people don't know as much as they think they know. They still are building on our backs,
Yeah.
and they don't realize it. They think that they are stronger, smarter, and more wiser than we are. We just don't say nothing. Now we're
Don't say
loud about
nothing.
it. Today we're more loud about it. But before we weren't loud about it, we just did it in hiding. But
Hmm.
guess what? We not hiding nothing anymore. We're not hiding anything.
We're not
We're letting
hiding.
you know what we're doing and how much we are succeeding. I
Yeah.
mean, look at right now. They think that they can destroy us. Look at Tesla right now.
Oh yeah.
Look at
Oh yeah.
Tesla right now. Me and Dad sit here and talk about this on a regular basis. I mean, he's got me watching and listening to all this, and I'm like, I wake up listening to this stuff. I got, you know, everything that's going on. I'm finally abreast of what's going on, and it's
Right.
ridiculous. It's stressful, but it's ridiculous. It's like they don't realize that because of social media, they're allowing so many people to have
Mhm.
so much content to post just on their foolery.
Progress.
Right.
You know what I'm
I
saying? Just
mean,
on their foolery. So what's the deal? So you're right. It's just so backwards to me.
right. Yeah. yeah, you want to take us back? Okay, let's see how y'all gonna survive when we go
Okay.
backwards.
Okay. They fail to realize
And
we know how to survive everything. We know how to survive.
Hmm.
and the big thing is, and this is the important thing is that they don't want us to keep our money in our neighborhoods. That's
No.
the key. They want us to suffer. So how do they do that? They make it that we have to go to them. Well, by separating, and that's different from segregation. Separation, saying, hey, you, like you said, you do. Someone said earlier, you do your thing, I do my thing, and we
Right.
both, and we see who gets there. But the problem is, every time that we do that, the dominant society comes and does something to try to set us back.
Right.
For example, most famous example, Black Wall Street. You had they have a lot of areas that were destroyed or burned, and this is how we get past that and say, hey, we're not doing that anymore. That is not us.
Mhm.
That's not us. But what I'm gonna
Yeah, but see,
do,
now that they're trying to do, if they decided, and I'm just speaking out of my head per se, but if they try to sit there and burn what we got, like look at Mike Epps and Ti and Tiny, they bought communities. They bought communities. They're building up. So what you gonna do? Try to take that away? What you gonna do? Try to burn that down? Guess what? Them people gonna burn you back down. They're not gonna take it like they took it back in the day. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna fight for what's theirs, and we all gonna fight for what's ours. We're gonna be louder than we was before. We at that time had a tendency to hold things back and not say anything and do things under the table and secretly. That's not happening today. We are speaking loud and proud about what we have and what we're going to do. So they want to segregate or tell people that we can. Guess what? We're gonna build our own. We're gonna build our own. And then you try to take that. Guess what? We're gonna rebuild it, but we're gonna burn yours down.
that's kind of what they want us to do, so they can think that they're going to take over. Well, they're in charge, but like I said, they want to get a chance to get rid of us. But once they do that, the country as we know it is over anyway. So that's another story. Um, right now, I just want to do a quick reset. This is DFG. This is DFG's Corner with my co-host, the Chocolate Pearl, my favorite girl, and the lady that's sweet as Snapple, Miss Apple from New York City. I know that you were doing your thing, Miss Apple, but I'm gonna play this next clip. You won't be able to see it, but you'll hear it, and it's called "The Effects of Residential Segregation."
Earlier, I had a video about the amount of wealth in certain parts of Delaware County. The flip side of that is Chester, the oldest city in Pennsylvania. Chester once had upwards of 65,000 people. However, after deindustrialization, its population halved to its current state of 32,000. The city is currently bankrupt. If you look at state rankings for measures such as education, crime, basically anything important, Chester is, let's just say, not ranked low. And when you factor in the fact that Chester is 8% black, people will jump to make comments disparaging the residents of the area. However, the forces behind this decline were explicitly racist in nature. The same forces of redlining and exclusionary zoning that created wealth in places like Swarthmore ultimately led to misery for marginalized communities like Chester. As the city became blacker, it also became increasingly shut off from positive private investment. Banks would not give out loans for home repair, essential businesses such as grocery stores refused to shop, and many parts of the city fell into disarray. Chester suffered the disgusting fate that many predominantly black communities in our country do, as the federal government, large banks, and general public completely devalue us in our space. And many right on that. Chester needed money, so this paved the way for Lulu's or locally undesirable land uses to side by the river, where former factory used to be. That riverfront had everything from a prison to two incinerators to a paper mill, basically everything that you could think of. And since trash is sent to Chester, others see the area as a dumping ground, and illegal dumping is a huge issue. Our country's racism allowed large corporations, along with local and state governments, to spend travel in the community as pollutants lead to early deaths and discourage more productive economic outlets. However, despite what seems to be a hopeless situation, many people in Chester continue to fight against the injustices they face, looking to pave a way for a brighter future. And just like Black people have been doing throughout our history in this country, we have retained agency and pressed forward against all odds. And I will talk about organization, the key organization doing that, and the work being done in the next video on this topic.
That was talking about segregate and how segregation affects us. We all know that if you want to growing up in the, most of us grew up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Industry was good back in the 70s. Everybody had jobs, but once they started moving jobs out of cities and in the smaller towns, and where there wasn't labor, and this all dives into education and what's going on with the Department of Education. You get a lot of issues where the land gets worse and worse, like they were saying. When we lived in New York, we were surrounded by factories. We had a power plant across the street. We had we had um we had all kinds of factories, both clean and dirty. A lot of distributorships in New York City. We had a bread company across the street. If you ever heard of Silver Cup Studios in New York City, it used to be Silver Cup Bakery, and that's what it was in the
Flour.
70s.
Yeah.
They closed in the late Silver Cup. Yeah. They closed about 1979, and then about 1981 they became a movie studio. Uh, we had a lot of things, and
The
over the years,
Coca-Cola.
a lot of stuff would started closing. And they started moving, and soon the property values especially in Black neighborhoods went way down. If you knew about the 70s and you heard about the Bronx and how they used to have burnt out buildings everywhere, that's not an exaggeration. On the block where my second oldest sister lived in the Bronx, we used to go up there all the time. Um, she lived on the corner of Southern Boulevard and East 179th Street. And at one point, there was only one, their building was the only building on the entire block. That was crazy. They had burnt out buildings everywhere. People was living in squalor. It was a step up to move to be in the projects at that time. However, right now we have a lot of issues to where we can't get past our own way, but it's not totally our fault, but we do have a lot to do with it when we're not teaching our kids right from wrong, when we're letting our kids raise themselves, when we step back and don't be the force for good in our communities that we need to be. But a lot of times what they're doing is corporations are buying up a lot of this property, this land, because they don't want people in general to own. They want to be able to rent so they can squeeze them for more money. It all goes in the school of prison pipeline, especially in Black areas. We get sent to prisons. The prisons get full. Then they have private prisons, so they're making money off of us there. And then guess what's legal if you're in prison? Slavery. So they can work you. They can work you till your back get out. They could do a lot of those things, and these things kind of destabilize our neighborhood. But if it was to go to where we have our own, with our innovation, our cultivation, and our long dormant feeling of community will strengthen. And as we had after 20 years after slavery, 15 years after Jim Crow, we will come back stronger than ever. And then they're going to try to do that. But by that time, the dominant society will be a global minority. I mean, a minority in this country. And they're going to hate that because they think that we're going to try to treat them the way they treated us for 400 plus years. We don't care about that. We really don't
Nope,
care
not
about
at all.
that.
Don't care nothing
And we
about
wasn't
that.
looking for revenge. We just want justice and to be treated and to be treated as a full citizen of the United States of America, because we were born here, our parents were born here, our great parents. I said, on my mother's side, my family goes back to before the country was even a country. I could trace my roots back to 1615. Not many people can do that. Um, our people, although we're melanated, our people have never been enslaved in the United States. So that's saying something. It's not to brag. I'm just stating a fact. Um, Apple, how's everything going on in New York City?
Is your
Everything's
light
good.
still
I'm
turned
sorry, I'm
off?
late. No, no, I'm sorry.
You know
I'm
how they
waiting for
said
that. I'm
Canada's
waiting.
going to cut the pay
Yeah,
bill.
I'm waiting for that. When they said that, New York was one of the states that Canada controls the electricity, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to go move in with my brother or my sister.
Come on. You know you always welcome at both places.
3 days. 3 days.
And you go to him if you want to stay in the cold, and if you come to me if you just want to be on a lifetime vacation.
But yeah, but those things that we actually have to do to get to where we all want to go, because we do want to be better than what we are today. We always want to prove our kids are the first generation that really did worse than us, because they can't, when they graduate high school, they can't just go get a decent paying job. So we were lucky that there were plentiful jobs and you really didn't need any
Need
college
that
or
right.
degree. That
Exactly.
now to be a janitor, you have to have a PhD to be a custodial engineer.
You laughing about it, but it's almost the truth. I know I'm looking for employment, and it's hard. And only thing that's actually standing me up with finding positions is my experience background. That trumps most college educations for a lot of people. So now on the applications, they're asking, how many years of whatever that background is. And mine is in accounting. How many years you had in this, and how many years you had in that. And I can say 30 and 25 years. You know what I'm saying? But that's the experience that I had. If I didn't have that experience today, I wouldn't get anything. Shucks, nowadays you can't even flip a burger without a good old, at least 1 year of college.
Oh, I
Nowadays,
know. I know. Hey, Dabs, I know you're from the Pacific. You were from the Pacific Northwest. Now you're in the hot Southeast. When you were growing up, you probably lived on it. You lived in the Seattle area, so I know you probably lived on a hill. and and what how was that compared to where you're at now, as far as segregation, and not de jure the segregation, but de facto the segregation? Because there's certain areas you don't walk through at night. You don't walk through Renton at night if you're black and don't want to be in jail.
Yeah, that's true. There's yeah, well, I guess back then at that time, I mean, facing, from when I moved here, what was been 12 years ago now. So, I mean, I'm actually from a little bit smaller town than Seattle, but went to school and lived in Seattle for a while. But majority of my time was spent in this town called Bremerton, which is very small. And yeah,
World
it's one
Series
of those
champs,
things.
Little League World Series champ 1982.
Oh yeah, okay. And then so we there were certain things that we knew we couldn't do. If we did, we had to hustle through town pretty quick, if it was in the evening times or whatever. Like you said, some certain parts of Seattle, hey, if you wasn't of the melanated color, you wouldn't roll through there. Like you said, Rainier, Rainier, it depended on what part of Rainier. So some of those parts, Capitol Hill, definitely not. Um, you know, if you was a brother, you better hurry up and get in the house if you lived in that area. So a lot of them didn't, but
Right.
it's things I've seen since high school. I mean, it was coming down here. I thought things was gonna be a little bit different. But I ran through some, situations where I didn't think it changed much. I deal with the job thing, a lot of that back home, especially in Bremerton where I live. You dealt with that because of color of your skin, you wasn't getting employment. It was a little more work, so.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
well,
got a story. I got a story about my trip up. One of my trips in King County.
uh-oh.
I was in southwest Seattle, right on the border where between where it goes from Seattle to SeaTac,
Yep.
and there are a lot of Polynesians over there. I'll just leave it at that.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Going to one of the Hawaiian barbecue spots. I was hungry.
Oh yeah.
I was going to the wharf. I was going to the wharf to hang out, and I go to I'm at I'm in SeaTac, and I go in this Hawaiian barbecue place. I was the just put it this way, I was a black pearl in a sea of brown sugar,
Yep.
and this 6'1", 450-pound Polynesian guy comes up to me and is like, bruh, I think you're in the wrong place. And I looked and it was about four of them behind him.
Uh-huh.
Looked like the offensive line for BYU. And I was like, yes, I am in the wrong place. I kindly got my rental
Yeah.
car, kept driving. Well, yeah, it's crazy that, when people think of the Pacific Northwest, they think of everybody together, everybody just hippies up there.
Right. Yeah, no,
But
there's some stuff you gotta watch out for.
yeah,
I was
definitely, definitely. But Miss Summer, where are you from?
So, dad was in the military. I was raised in St. Croix, the Virgin Islands. And I'm originally from New York. My parents are from the Bronx. And raised in St. Croix, Virgin Islands. And then he retired in Virginia Beach. So that's where I met my husband. And then I never heard of Manassas, Virginia at all. I'd never heard of that until um, later on in life. But yeah, I'm originally from New York.
Okay, okay. You were born in New York or lived a little bit there. Trust me, you're talking to a real one. Because I was actually born in the Bronx, Morrisania Hospital, 1966. My parents used to tell me the story of how I did the same thing he did when I had my son. I was out playing football. Well, I was hanging out. He was playing football, and my mother's water broke. My aunt ran down the block. Now these are basically teenagers. My mother had just turned 20 and my father was 18. So it was like young people do young people stuff. And he ran up there and took her to the hospital. And then I came out a couple of days later. Well, anyway, just keep me from dragging off. One thing I do want to talk about is, and segueing into Department of Education. I'm going to play this clip. That's basically what's going to happen with the Department of Education. We're cutting the Department of Education fair use.
Republicans have for a long time wanted to get rid of the Department of Education. Ronald Reagan ran on getting rid of the Department of Education right after it was created. So there's a long held dream up there. But the reason it's never happened is because there's never been growth. Because rural communities, as you just said, have benefited from some of the programs that the Department of Education has done. I don't think anyone thinks any of these departments and agencies within the federal government operate with no issues and that everything is all copacetic all the time. Things had to change, but just gutting it completely so much to where they're not really doing anything, that's where you're going to run into the issues, right? There are certain
Sorry.
parts of the Department of Education that are being put in different offices, like you said, the SBA, and you're going to have some of the protections actions and orders of how, children with disabilities operate in schools, those kinds of things is going to be spread around. But then who's going to be doing the work? Because there's an expertise that is in the Department of Education that maybe won't be at the SBA when it comes to student loans or HHS and what they can receive when they're in school.
That was an MSNBC clip, and it was talking about, the effects of education when they're dismantling it and placing it onto other areas. So the functions won't go away, but as the speaker was saying, who's going to do the work? If I send an electrician to look at your plumbing, yeah, they might get a little bit of it, but that's not who you need for that job. One of the things, they talk about what the Department of Education does. They give Title I funding. What is Title I funding? Title I funding is funding if 50% of your students receive free breakfast, free lunch. The federal government sends extra funds to supplement education aid, special needs, things of that nature, to help give your school the extra help it needs to get out of the Title I status eventually. Also, they handle a lot of the special needs, special education, equal opportunity, and of course, dealing with the American with Disabilities Act. Those things, if moved to HHS, our Secretary of the Health and Human Services thinks that sunlight kills measles. I know better, but I guess I ain't rich enough. But let me go to Ms. Kim. You worked in the education system, and you've done those. You've seen Title I schools. What do you think? Getting rid of the Department of Education will affect schools like where you came from, Statesboro, Bullock County, Portal?
I worked in a Title I school, so it's gonna hurt a lot with I feel like with the free lunch, with a lot of students that get the free lunch, because a lot of the parents do not work, and it's a very low income area that I worked in. And excuse me, I'm not feeling well right now. But I lost my train of thought. It's a
You're working in a place that the parents didn't work, so it was very poor.
Yeah, the parents and where a lot of them lived off SNAP and TANF, which what I do now. And or either they didn't get, and it also helped with the school that I work in. The school provided in the summertime the Feed a Kid program. So I think that's gonna hurt those types of schools, and with these kids that get these certain, federal aid, not federal aids, but the Title I school that get the aids they need to take care of the kids in the school. A lot of them gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt by it.
I agree with that. I agree with that because as Apple and Chocolate Pearl can attest, we were there every day during the summer. In New York, they used to call it summer free lunch, and people
we kind of made it fun. We kind of made it fun going there.
Like, yeah, people used to clown us like, if you got free lunch and you lived in the projects, and that just says yeah, that kind of goes hand in hand. But back in the 80s when people were still working, 70s, 80s when people still working, that was looked down upon by your peers. So we understand. Trust me, we understand. I definitely understand. Reduced and free lunch.
Child, I understood it. Didn't care what nobody else thought about it, and always try to get there late when it was almost about to be over, so we can get the leftovers to bring home.
Yep.
Y'all could be shamed if you want to. I was eating.
Yeah. And then with the school I worked in, they also hosted summer school. So the summer meal program helped those kids because a lot of times the kids that came from the low income home, a lot of times the parents were selling the
The
SNAP
food stamps.
benefits, you,
Hmm.
you know, for other things that they weren't supposed to be, you know, just to have money in their pocket. So a lot of times I always worried about the kids, like, are they eating, you know, during the summertime? Because
Yeah,
I
and
mainly
that's the
work with
thing.
first and second graders.
And that's the
But see,
thing. It's
that's what the Michelle Obama has why she started. She was so adamant about the types of food that was being fixed at the schools and wanted to make sure that the kids had fresh vegetables or fresh
Yeah.
fruit, ingredients for them to eat a nutritious meal and not just a supplement in a sense, just throwing something together for the kids to eat. At least they're growing and they're getting the nutrients that they need to grow. But now it's getting to the point where, like you said, if they remove all of those benefits, what's going to happen to these kids now? I think the parents is going to have to step up and do what they're supposed to do and be a parent. But because we didn't train, or a lot of this newer generation, we didn't train our kids to be parents.
Mm-hmm.
We train them to be lazy and selfish and feel that the world owes them everything. So they're not going to learn how to survive like they need to. They're going to get a crash course, of course, but we were kind of taught. We were, and our parents were taught, how to maintain a household even with a small income and stuff like that. And like I said, like my brother said, we grew up on free lunch and summer school lunches and stuff like that. Like I said, I laughed about it, but I was dead serious. I was never ashamed of it. Well, I personally was never ashamed of it. I would make sure I would go towards the end. and when you go towards the end, whatever's left over, you can get the last. And I used to take that home. I used to always try to make sure I had a shopping bag with me so I can take that home with me. So that way, especially on the weekends, because it was closed on the weekends. So, and I don't think we got fed on Fridays. So you got fed Monday through Thursday, and on Friday through Sunday, you didn't get nothing. So, but I made sure my household had something.
Yeah. And that's why when I moved up and started working with, which was the OTJTPA program, which is now WEOA. And I started working with high school students and I gave them their first job because a lot of them came from single parent household. If the parent was in the household, most of the time the parent wasn't working or the parent was working and drinking or using drugs. So the
Right.
kids was able to go finally get their first job and they started working. I would put them at the library at the age of 14, 15. And the others that could get a work permit, I will help them get the work permit and taught them how to go on the interview, dress for success and all that. I did that for over 13 years with these teenagers, ages 14 to on up to young adults. And I think that's why I stayed in it so long because the majority of the people that I did work with was in the Black community. And I helped them to be able to learn how to get a job, earn their own money, manage their money. Now, everybody wasn't successful in it. Some do fall off, but I think that's why I had a love for what I did because a lot of the kids in the household came from broken home families and they didn't have a lot. I mean, I would go down in the trenches, just to get them up, take them on a job interview. Back then, where I came from, you could do that. Now, I wouldn't try to here, but where I came from, yes. And that's why I stayed in that so long.
That's really, that's good. And that's kind of what we'll probably go back to once we get to segregation separation. we'll probably wind up, you know, taking care of our own, and that's kind of what we probably need. And instead of laying over and rolling over, we're not going to do that anymore, and be able to help not only ourselves, but our progeny and their kids, because we're almost at the age of where we can be grandparents. Um,
I am one.
Miss Dream, I know you driving. What's going on with you? Or she must be listening. She's driving anyway. But let me go. Hey, Pearl. On what you see on the screen now is the World Population Review website, and it talks about how much the states spend per person. With a thing with the Department of Education is that they're gonna. The president said that he was going to give it back to the states. You see how much New York spends per student, right? Can you see that?
Yeah.
Almost 25,000. Now look at and New York is about eighth or ninth in outcomes for education. Now let me go to the people with that spend the least. Utah, Idaho, both Republican states, Arizona, Nevada, Oklahoma, Mississippi, they spend 3% on their per student public funding. So do you think, and that's including what the feds give them? Say the feds give them 10% of that per student. So Mississippi is ranked 49th over Arkansas. Do you think that they're giving the money back to the states or having the states handle education? Do you think that it will get better or worse?
Worse.
Oh, it's gonna get worse, bro.
Yeah, definitely worse.
Because there's
Yeah.
a lot of times, their money goes in a lot of the South. You know, a lot of the South, football is king. So a lot of their money goes into that. If they split education and if they also segregate, they make all black schools. It's over. They're not gonna. Their football teams are not gonna generate anything.
Mm-mm. And they don't see it. They just see the overall what they believe they're saving. And the only thing they're doing is destroying the people who voted for them.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Me and Dad was laughing.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, well, Carmen has a comment. She's in the back.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm trying to get over this move for a minute. But yes, that ratio is going to destroy.
I was going to say that, but I think somebody else is speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am. But that percentage of which they're doing, because technically most of the public school system is already state funded, and we already behind and struggling to make sure that these kids get what they need. They still sharing 30 to 1 in a classroom as far as certain counties or certain states. Then on top of that, they don't have supplies for the kids. They sharing Chromebooks now since the COVID situation, but they didn't even have books for each kid to get one to even learn from. So now they're going to put us back in a system where in certain countries that you got to pay to attend school. Specifically, like in Ghana, if you don't have money, you can't go to school. In Jamaica, if you don't have money, you can't go to.
But yeah, that's what they're trying to do now. That if you don't have money, that you're not going to get the education for your child.
So then how
That's why they're segregating stuff, and that's why he signed that bill. They want to take the money out, and then you won't have any money to go.
But he's thinking that that's going to affect our brown and black people, but that's going to affect his little hillbillies that voted for him in the first place.
Exactly.
They're the
Exactly
ones
what we were
in the
saying.
public school system fighting to go to school in the morning so they can get breakfast and lunch because they ain't getting that at home. And then on top of that, how are we going to get educated to even get a job, to even work, to put money back into the economy? Because
They
everywhere
want you
now
to
it's
push
like,
that mule again. They want us to push the mule. They want us to go back into slavery. Because if you don't have the education and get the job that you need to survive and sustain your household, you're going to have to revert back to slavery. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to revert us
it's
back to
more of
slavery.
them than it is of us. So you're going to put the little white kids in slavery too?
But see, that's the thing. They don't realize that they're not really affecting us. They're affecting their own people.
Right.
But the only thing they're in tunnel vision and they only see that they're trying to destroy us when in fact you're destroying your people. You're destroying the farmers, you're destroying the manufacturers, you just now you the market, period. Either you go into the department store, you have all these department stores are closing down now. You know, they're not putting much in the department stores anymore like this or the grocery stores like they used to because they don't have the means. And a lot of our fresh vegetables and fruits and meats and stuff is coming from another country. And then you put the tariffs out there and then the tariffs is, hey, we got to pay this tariffs to get this stuff to y'all. Oh no, we'll just do it over here. We'll just keep it here or we'll go to another country. They don't realize. Yeah, and that's another thing. You're shipping the Mexicans back who are actually working the fields.
The one that's doing the work, sending them back.
You know? Exactly. So now the white man's gonna have to look. The white man's gonna have to plow their own fields because the black man ain't gonna do it unless the black man owns it.
Unless it's $20 an hour at the minimum.
Exactly. Because and that's what I said earlier. I don't know if you heard me say earlier. Because we know better, we do better. And
so
because back then,
not do anything and let them just figure the shit out. Oh, these they doing nothing. We got to figure it out ourselves, or should we continue to fight?
So if you guys can see the screen, and we're talking about the same. This is it's a Newsweek article from a site called Wallet Hub, and it talks about the states ranking in education. Look where you at, Chocolate Pearl, 21st. Florida, pretty in the middle. In the middle. You go to Virginia, where I'm at. It's in the top 10. You go to Pennsylvania, it's in the middle. You go to New York, it's higher. You go to Texas, they're in the bottom 10. California, middle. Washington, top 10. Oregon, top 20. You see a lot of these states, Colorado, and that's Colorado's a pretty decent state, and they have blue pockets. Kansas 23rd, Nebraska 24th. This is the middle of the country, the breadbasket of the country. And you see where most of them rank in the middle. Alabama 45, Mississippi 49, Arkansas 47, New Mexico 42, Arizona 36, South Carolina 38, Georgia 30th, Tennessee 39th, North Carolina 22nd, Kentucky 43rd, West Virginia, the state next to me, 50, the absolute bottom. Yeah, it's interesting
Alaska,
where things go.
Get that Alaska.
Yeah. Yeah, but they're going to be there for a while. And check this out. They also have a high concentration. Most of the people with money work for the government, and they got hit hard. So you can imagine.
Hey, Alaska, we want to see Alaska.
Alaska is 31st, and Hawaii's 18th. So they're both in the middle. They're both in the middle. But overall, though, it's pretty interesting on how things are and how we're looking at education and things of that nature, and how the less educated you are, the more likely you are to have views that are considered extreme. Fascism. I'm going to let y'all listen to one more, and talking about the reason, the people that are in the FO phase of FAFO, the farmers, Midwestern rural people, or they like to, as their people like to call them rubes. Let me see. Give me a second, and I will find it. And one more, just a little. Just give me a. Looking for a certain tagline. I know what it is. And these two guys tell who tended to vote for the current president. And I'm looking. Just give me a second. I gotta be smarter than the equipment. Oh, I just want y'all to talk about the economy was bad. I just want y'all to hear something for fair use.
That the economy does better under the Democrats than the Republicans. Now, it shouldn't be that way, but we've had some pretty bad disaster under the Republicans.
You heard that. That was from the horse's mouth. And I say horse because I don't want to get my stream banned. But you heard that, but yet he's working on Project 2025. Also, let's go to my favorites. No, it's not in here either, but no, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, the biggest things is that a lot of people don't understand. He's doing exactly what he said he was going to do. He ran it. He understood that the economy works better under Democrats, but doesn't work for the people that support him, that want the money, because more people work, the less money goes into their pockets. Less money goes into their pockets. They kind of they don't want us to have money. They don't want us to have money. They just want to be able to control us, and so they can live like the old days. But those days are long gone, thinking that we won't say anything about it. Well, I'm officially about to give up on looking for this thing because I cannot find it. My brain is not working the way it needs to, but hey, what the heck? Oh, here it is. As soon as I gave up, I found it. Just give it a second. Fair use.
Why are white rural voters a threat to democracy?
They're the most racist, xenophobic, anti-immigrant, anti-gay, geodemographic group in the country. Second, they're the most conspiracist group. QAnon support and subscribers, election denialism, COVID denialism, and scientific skepticism, Obama birtherism. Third, anti-democratic sentiments. They don't believe in an independent press, free speech. They're most likely to say the president should be able to act unilaterally without any checks from Congress or the courts or the bureaucracy. They're also the most strongly white nationalists and white Christian nationalists. And fourth, they are most likely to excuse or justify violence. So Trump comes in and says, let's just hate on cities. Let's just hate on minorities. Let's hate on immigrants. And at least they can deliver on it. So they're not even voting in their material interests anymore. He was just a conduit for their rage, their anger, their resentment. And that turned out to be what they wanted. And it wasn't really about a material
conditions of their lives, because he didn't improve their lives, but he got more support in rural areas in 2020 than he had in 2016, despite the fact that none of their problems had gotten any better under him. All that he gave them was a way to essentially give a big middle finger to Democrats, to people who live in cities, and to the rest of the country. They're pissed off. They are pissed off, and they have some reason to be with both parties.
White rural rage, the threat to American democracy. Every day is Juneteenth on voters. A threat to them.
So y'all heard that. Y'all heard that. Dabs, what do you think about that?
It's I don't know. It's these people's crazy. That's all I can say. It's
So, Apple, what do you think about that?
I'm sorry, I was actually what I think about it. I think they're getting what they voted for.
Yeah, but they always blame us. They always blame us or somebody like us.
Yeah, they're going to blame us because it's when you do something that you know you shouldn't have done, of course you're going to try to pass the blame or pass the buck or use other people as scapegoats. Of course they're going to blame us, Democrats, people of POC. They're going to blame us because, or I'm surprised they're not still using the same mantra, it's Obama's fault, that they used for 8 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
They didn't think, because they were so steeped in their classism and racism, that they didn't realize that they were cutting off their nose to spite their face, just to make sure that we didn't have. And now they finding out, especially the rural farmers who depended on, I'm going to say it, welfare, because that's basically what it was. They were getting handouts from the government in order to maintain their farms and their businesses. And they don't realize that the Black farmers never really relied on these things because they never qualified for them. But only thing they see is, handout to Black and brown people, handouts, not realizing that they're the biggest demographics getting these handouts. And now you shot yourself in the foot, so to speak, by voting against your best interest, and now you want to cry about it. I have no sympathy.
Wow.
I'm an empathetic person, but that's like you telling a child not to touch a hot stove, and they go ahead and touch the hot stove and then cry because their hand got burned.
And then just like our mother, she would say, "See, I told you not to do it.
I told you not to do it." Right.
Laugh at you. So we understand. But I
So
want to thank
all this
everybody.
crying now, like it's a moot point. Why are you crying now? You should have cried when you should have known it was coming, because we told you it was coming.
See, they
2025 told them, but they wasn't listening.
Yeah, they subscribe to cry, laugh now, cry later, because that's exactly what they're doing. And on that note, and on that note, I'm going to close the show. This has been a wonderful show. I want to thank everybody for participating tonight. Before I go, I would like to give my co-host a shout out, Chocolate Pearl, my favorite girl. What you got to say before we go off?
I just say we need to stand strong, stand together, and speak loud and proud, and don't let what they're doing to themselves deter what we still need to do
And
as a people.
Miss Apple?
Basically, what I left off with is just, they're finding out because they messed around, and we're going to be all right because we're used to the struggle. That's all. That's what we were born in. That's what we were raised in, the struggle. This is not struggle to us. This is every day. And once, I'm kind of upset about the segregation, but I'm kind of not, because I think that we're going to suffer the blowback, but we'll be able to rebound from it. But it is what it is. What can you do now? We didn't vote for it.
Y'all right. Well,
I do want to say one thing that Apple just kind of reminded me. I was trying to say it earlier. We were watching a commentary from Roland Martin, and he had a t-shirt. He was in Texas, and he was in front of, I think, a school at the time. But anyway, he was talking about what was going on, and basically what we're saying, you just don't be crying about it. And so what he had, a shirt he had on was, "Don't blame me. I voted for the black woman." I
Very.
told Dabs that I need to make a shirt for us to wear. Don't blame me. I voted for the black woman. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say. We need to stand strong, stand proud, and remember who we voted for
And remember who we are.
and who we are. Yes.
That's what's up. So I want to thank everybody for coming on. I know Miss Dreams just getting back from her vacation. She probably had a great time. Miss Summer, you had a great party Saturday night. I enjoyed myself. Um, Also, I want to thank Dabs for coming on. Stalwart, he's going on. He might get a guest spot in the near future. And I want to thank Miss Nikki out there in YouTube land. A couple other things, the Mad Hatter, the Misfit, all of those other people, Miss Nikki Blanco. Hey, we all there for you. Join me every Tuesday and my team. I they're not a team, they're my family. Join me and my family every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, whether it's daylight or savings time. It's daylight now, so just do that. And I want to thank everybody. Look for the links. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.